Welcome back to the OIS podcast. In this episode, Stuart Abelson from Ora, a contract research organization, explains the services the company can provide to ophthalmology innovators with the mechanics of a clinical trial to help advance products through development. Let's listen.
Hello, OIS audience. Nice to see you all again. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Rob Rothman. I am a glaucoma specialist by training, still practice clinically for a significant amount of time. I am also the co-founder and co-managing member of InFocus Capital Partners, which is an ophthalmic-focused venture capital fund. We are just nearing the end of our investment cycle. We have 13 assets inside of our fund, and they are all in the ophthalmic space. I have done several of these podcasts over the last few months, and I am very pleased this afternoon to be speaking with someone who I consider to be a good friend and partner, Stuart Abelson, who is the president, chairman, and CEO of Ora. ORA, and I will let him explain to you what it is that he does, and let him give a brief introduction of himself as well. But suffice it to say that as an investor in ophthalmology, especially in the early space where we are, it is impossible to talk to companies and not come across Ora during your discussions. It is physically impossible. They are, at least in my opinion, the premier contract research organization in ophthalmology, and have provided services of a broad range, which we'll get into in a few minutes, to almost all the companies that we've interacted with on the investment side. So with that as an introduction, Stuart, welcome, and glad to have you here.
Well, thanks, Rob, and it is great to be here. OIS is a fantastic platform and has really done an amazing job in our industry, pulling together so many different groups that are necessary to lead to successful innovation, from regulatory agencies to investors to entrepreneurs, as well as the practicing physicians. It's really done a great job of pulling together the whole ophthalmology ecosystem, and they do it with style and flair. So
yeah, it's fun. It's funny that you say that. When I was just a regular ophthalmologist and not involved in investing, I would get the emails or from OIS and see some of the publications, and never really appreciated the depth and breadth of the service that they provide to ophthalmology. And now, as an investor and somebody who's gotten more involved with the organization, you do realize how critical it is to conducting our business. So kudos to them.
Yeah, it actually was very fun to see OIS develop, because many of our clients would be presenting at OIS and sharing data that we in fact helped to generate. So we would have our Ora folks in the audience, and we'd actually play a game. We'd say, okay, well, how many shout outs are we going to get? And, acknowledging Ora's role in helping to produce some of that data, because we're very proud of, the work that we're doing to help move these technologies forward. And, when you get a CEO or a representative of the company up there proudly talking about how their product performed and showing those nice narrow standard deviations and a good clean study done, and knowing that they're advancing their program in front of an audience of investors that are going to see their progress in their development plans. It's just very, very satisfying. And in fact, that's really how we draw a lot of energy, I think, from the innovative community, is to see how we are progressing these programs forward, towards approval, so that they can benefit patients. So it's
that's great. It's nice. It's fun. It's really it's fun when you're in it like we are now. So anyway, let me start out by giving you the opportunity, because there are listeners to these podcasts from all over the place. There's investors, there's entrepreneurs, there's just interested parties. And not everybody knows what a CRO is or what a CRO does. So just as a brief introduction, because we'll get into the meat of it as we go along, just can you explain to the audience, what a CRO is, what Ora is, what you do, and then we'll go backwards a little bit to the genesis, the origin, and all the other things. But just for everybody listening, just tell us about the company.
Well, sure. So first of all, the word CRO is something that's become a bit of vernacular statement. The contract research organization, that's what it stands for. Typically you'll have a company that decides, what study they want to do, and then they're looking for somebody to actually conduct that study, being able to provide the necessary implementation of that, the patient recruitment, the training of the sites, the oversight of the good clinical practices that are required. Sometimes it relates to drug logistics, getting the drug out there to the sites, properly labeled, and then making sure that the data is conducted, or the studies conducted per the protocol, as well as in compliance with federal regulations. So then there's also aspects of the data management. How's the data handled, and are the statistics being properly implemented? And then leading through various checks and balances to make sure that things are in compliance, and ultimately leading to a database lock and then data interpretation. So there's the mechanics of actually getting these studies done, and that's what the sort of word CRO means. That a lot of times the companies have the idea, they've got the product, they've got know-how, but they tend to outsource the heavy lifting to get that done. The CRO as a word applies to only a part of Ora, though, and this is something that we've struggled with over the years to try to explain that Ora is a whole lot more than just a CRO. Certainly, we do CRO services, but Ora has extended itself far beyond what a traditional CRO does because of the focus that we have on ophthalmology and the fact that we've been at this for 40 years. So the level of expertise that we have in Ora, which includes PhDs and MDs, ophthalmologists, surgeons that are fully on staff, have been working across ophthalmology development programs for a long, long time, not just individually, but also together as a team within Ora. And that leads to a lot of experience, and the experience leads to knowledge, and that knowledge can directly improve the programs that we run by helping to select endpoints, to help to design the statistical plans, to help to design a regulatory strategy, as well as design inclusion, exclusion criteria to make the trial you're doable. And so what I see, clients often come to us, they don't necessarily have a fully baked plan, and really value the expertise that we bring to the table to help them to set that study up for success. Not just to do what they tell us, like handing a sheet of music to a musician and saying, play this. We really get involved in helping to fully produce the piece, right? Figuring out, can we change the score a little bit? Can we change the words of the song? And all for a better end product. And so we also have this preclinical CRO that we've built over the past it's really about 12 years, and that includes the formulation, chemistry, manufacturing, and controls, and regulatory submissions piece. And that's something that is very important, because if you don't have a product that's stable, sterile, and comfortable, then you don't have a product to test in the case of a drug. And if you don't have a product that has a validated software or engineering plan behind it, then you can run into trouble there as well. So we've really focused on the early stage that allows us to help these entrepreneurs and inventors. And we're working with everybody from physician entrepreneurs to mid-sized biotech companies, venture backed. Maybe they have one product, maybe they have a couple, all the way up to global firms that have products on the market and international operations, all focused on ophthalmology as well as other therapeutic areas. So we're really working with large companies all the way down to a physician entrepreneur, and being able to meet those different size customers where they are and help them to refine their program and move that along. That's really the magic, I'd say, that we bring to the table, is that combination of expertise that's been gained over lots of experience in the area of ophthalmology. That's all that we focus on, and being able to take that and then turn it into operational execution, and make sure that plan is something that is able to be implemented so that the product can advance through its development.
So we're going to get back to all this again, because again, I have a sort of a very deep understanding of your business, and we're going to go back and talk about it. But let me just take a step back for a little bit. And 40 years ago, that's not at all what you did. I mean, 40 years ago, Ora started out somehow and has grown. So what's the origin? Where did it come from? How did it start? Tell us about the familial nature of how this grew and how you got into it and your background. I think people should hear that, because it's one of the things that sort of draws me to the company is, the genesis of it. And I think people should hear it. So go back to the beginning.
Well, like all great businesses, it all starts with an idea, usually of one person or a small group of people. In this case, it was my father, Dr. Mark Abelson. He's a ophthalmologist, trained at McGill, and did a fellowship at Harvard at the Scapin's Eye Research Institute and Mass Pioneer Infirmary, where he continues to be a professor and surgeon emeritus. He came down and in his experiences at Harvard, started to take an interest in ocular allergy. Actually, had a lab partnership with Dr. Matei Allensmith. Actually, he's the ocular allergist at the time, who was at Scapin's in Boston, and realized that there was a big gap between the research that happened in the lab and the translation of that to the clinic. And in the case of ocular allergy, as they started to map out the mechanisms of ocular allergy, the various inflammatory mediators and different clinical responses that we're seeing, there was a question of how can we get more reproducibility in the trials that we're doing when those make their way into the clinic. And there was a number of frustrated clients that they'd have to run sort of cast of thousands studies, environmental studies that were really hit or miss. And it was frustrating because it seemed like the drug should work, but then it wouldn't. So he really went to work on that in a very pragmatic, process-oriented way and said, well, how can we find a better way to study these products? And there was a model that actually was grown out of that idea, this concept of improving the quality and reliability of clinical research. And that early model was the CAC, the Conjunctival Allergen Challenge, which was Ora's first clinical model. And this product this model ended up becoming the gold standard for how ocular allergy drugs are developed. And to this day, we have 22 ocular allergy products on the market that have come through that model. It's a concept of a challenge model. So we are bringing ocular allergens into the eye to induce the allergic disease, and then being able to, in a controlled way, look at how these patients respond to drug and placebo. And we're able to dramatically reduce the size of these studies, as well as and improve the reproducibility. In fact, across 22 studies, 22 drug approval programs, we've never failed to reproduce a phase 2 result in a phase 3 study. And you can't point to a lot of other areas of pharmaceutical development where you can have that kind of reproducibility. So again, this kind of an idea of improving the quality and reliability of clinical research was the seed that gave birth to Ora. Another key person at Harvard recommended to Dad that he go out and set up a practice up in the north of Boston. And we at that time, my brother and I were young kids. This is in the late 70s. We were in the town of Andover, and so he moved to Andover and set up a practice called Andover Eye Associates, and built that practice out in a way that would allow him to have flexibility to be involved in research. And so it became almost a miniature Mass Pioneer, in that he'd take one day of the week and had a different specialist every day. So one day was oculoplastics, another day was pediatrics, another day glaucoma, another day retina, and then surgical follow-up. And of course, Dad was practicing, and we learned as kids early on the importance of the referral relationships. I remember going around with my mom and delivering at the time cases of wine to the general lists in town to thank them for the ophthalmology referrals. I remember working with my dad at the YMCA doing glaucoma screenings and giving them cards so that we use that as a feeder for the practice and also to do good work in the community. And then, I took an interest in what Dad did. Like, Dad was always there to talk about science to us and help us with understanding biology when it came time to get into high school and sort out those things, and always would be there to share. And we also had other incredible things. People would come to work with him on a consulting basis, and they'd stay at our home. So we had lots of people from industry who literally I grew up with meeting on Sundays. Names from the past. A prominent regulatory gentleman named Marv Garrett, who heads up regulatory at ISTA now. I remember him. Having Sunday breakfast with Dad. And we'd have medical writers or medical illustrators that would come over to work with Dad and draw pictures on the kitchen table to map out the disease and make sure that looked right clinically, so that when that was published in the book, it made sense. So, we had monitor, Diane Uphoff is a monitor from Allergan who's been around in the industry for a long time. She's another name, I remember from growing up, and, she'd come out from Balboa Island and help us to, taught me how to make guacamole and deviled eggs. And I got a chance to learn what she did. So this was all like in high school. And then the opportunity came to do some work in the practice. And I had this discussion. This is a time when ophthalmologists, or I think most docs, were taking off Wednesdays, and they also were working on weekends. And I said, well, that's what our customers, the patients, were actually available because they weren't working. And I said, maybe we should have some evening hours and some Saturday. I'm not going to go in, but he partnered me up with Dr. Jack Greiner, who's still a friend of ours. And I worked with Jack Greiner when I was, I think, about 14 or 15 years old, running the front desk, working as a technician, spinning the phoropter, using the lensometer, doing some visual fields, scheduling appointments, even processing insurance. And I got a chance to really work the front end of a practice, just the two of us, and have this like skeleton crew on a Saturday. And so I got and then of course I used to go with my dad and hang out at the nurse's station when he got a midnight call, or overhear him on the phone. You're talking to the tissue bank to, hear about some motorcycle accident that happened and a young person's corneas were available, and that those were going to be scheduled for surgery for, a cornea transplant. And so, I'm sort of describing the life of a son of an ophthalmologist, right? I mean, that's it. I saw Dad work, and I saw him, operate. I saw him work hard. I saw him bring work in home, and I saw the passion that he had for what he did. And I think that that's something that, I carry forward with me now, and also into Ora, about, what does it mean to be really passionate about something, that you're doing, this mission and purpose, and being part of something bigger than yourself. And so I think that that's really, what fuels. There's a lot of industry consulting that happened early on at Ora. We use the Andover Eye site to recruit patients. This is, again, very early on in the 80s. The CRO thing didn't really exist at that time. But the big vertical integrated companies, Johnson & Johnson, CooperVision, Allergan, Alcon, the big names at the time, Bausch & Lomb, we had shirts and goodies that always came home from business trips, from bags from all of those companies, that became household names for us. And so, Ora progressed from that. The next big step was in college. I went to a small liberal arts college in Maine called Bates College. Graduated back in 1997.
You wish, yeah.
I wish.
Yeah, exactly.
And at that time, I had made a connection in international business. A company called Amphenol, which was in the electronic connector space, so passive electronic components. And I met this amazing gentleman, Dr. Martin Loeffler, who was running this company. He was a physicist who had built a global organization. It was just acquired by KKR for $700 million the year that I graduated. Of course, KKR being an investor, the guys that essentially invented the leverage buyout. And they were looking at a new model to do an industry roll-up of a company that had been depleted through multiple leverage buyouts. And they were, looking to reinvest capital and build out that global business. And I said, this is an incredible opportunity to travel and see the world and understand how a big global company works, and how to really manage investment in that and drive value creation. So I went to Connecticut. I was there for about a year. I only think I spent 4 nights in the apartment that I rented because I traveled all over the world and spent a lot of time out in Chicago at a fiber optic products business unit. That I ended up having an opportunity to run when I was in my mid-20s. It was an operating unit of a factory that had operations in China and Mexico. And it was a very unique opportunity to lead a division of a public company at a very young age with the outstanding mentorship that my boss Martin was providing, as well as a army of general managers, about 50 of them around the world, all of who I had a chance to learn from. So it was a real trial by fire crash course in global business. The learning curve was real steep, and had a chance to really just jump in and put a lot of it into practice. Never having taken a formal accounting or business class because I was a biology and psychology undergrad at Bates. In a parallel life, though, at graduation, I remember the graduation tent. My dad hired a couple of my friends, and they went to go work at Ora. And one of those, Matt Chapin, who you know very well, not long after Matt came Aaron Shapiro, and then my buddy George Usler from 6th grade. He was a Trinity College graduate, and we added him to the Ora team not long after that. So this all happened in like the late 90s. And then there was other folks. Paul Gomes, who still runs our allergy group, he came into Ora as a clinical study participant and ended up becoming part of our allergy group, and then went on to be its vice president. You can't talk about Ora's early history without talking about Donna Welch and the role that she's played. Is still with our organization, and being able to help to train people. She was Dad's operating room nurse, one of the lead nurses, and ended up bringing her amazing organization and problem-solving skills to Ora to help to keep the research business running. And so the Stuart's friends, went to Ora, and I went into this international business world, and we obviously stayed in touch over that period of time. They're still my friends, but Ora had grown to the point where it's about 15, 16 people, maybe around 20, something like that. Around the time that I decided it was time to leave Amphenol and come back to go work with Dad and my friends, and that happened in 2007, actually. I had just completed an MBA out at Kellogg, out at Northwestern, because I was in Chicago, and it was a great experience to take all the learnings I had in an informal way at Amphenol and bring them to a practical or academic understanding. But then I came back to Ora to work with my buddies and my dad, and this is where Ora really, we really said, hey, what can we do with this company? Like, we've been here, they were there for about 10 years. I was coming back, and we said, like, let's think about how big this could be, and it's just been an amazing period of time. It's 14 years ago that I came back as Ora's president at the time. And it's been just an amazing journey. We've had so many adventures all over the world, working with so many great people, with doctors, with investors, with entrepreneurs and executives at our clients, project managers, and just have made so many great friends, have seen so many different parts of the world. And it's been a really great journey. So you and your dad hanging out in the office on Saturday, two of you, basically start Ora from those experiences. And today, April 29th, 2021, there are how many employees? Well, so right now we're at 400 employees, and I want to be clear. I came back to Ora in 2007. Dad was really the driving force behind Ora and built that firm. But now a global organization. So we have about 30 employees based out of our London office, covering the world, the European market, and then also about 20 in Asia right now, based in China, as well as some activity in Australia. The bulk of our employees are in the United States, largely centered around the Boston area. That's where the company grew up. We have really robust training program. I think that's one of the biggest things that makes Ora different, is that we really home grow our people. We have a special way of doing things. We're focused just on ophthalmology. That's all we do through and through. You can't, just like your firm is focused on just ophthalmology. When you are focused on one thing and you're determined to be the best, then that emerges. And everything that we do from 100% of my brain space all the way down, throughout all levels of the organization is all focused on how we can do a better job in supporting our clients, and getting studies done, faster, with higher quality, with a higher likelihood of success. So,
not to give you any sort of, look, this is informational, but during the course of that time, your process has resulted in how many drug approvals?
So we're, I think at 52 is what the current count is at, and it includes products for dry eye, for allergy, for glaucoma. It includes contact lenses. There's exciting work going on in the diagnostic imaging area. The medical device business at Ora is roaring, whether it's a surgical implants, or whether it's new surgical systems, or whether it's a new piece of diagnostic equipment, whether it's specular microscope or an OCT, or new microperimetry. All of those need software validation and testing. So we're really doing a great job supporting those customers with everything from the IDEs to European approvals. So that's but retina products. We've been involved in some of the most exciting and most impactful retina programs. So it's really front of the eye, back of the eye, as we say, everything in between, across those 52 drug approvals. But those approvals are the success of our customers. We are here in service to them, right? We are a service organization. We are here to bring our global resources, our network, our knowledge, and our service mentality and can-do attitude to get these programs set up for success and done. And so when I look at these 52 approvals, those aren't Ora approvals. Those are successes of partnerships where we've showed up to help these clients and make sure that we're just giving all of our experience and knowledge, know-how, capabilities to their programs with just a level of passion and pride of execution that I think is very rare.
So I would agree, and I think that one of the things that we should probably spend a few minutes talking about, and obviously, InFocus interacts closely with Ora in lots of different ways, and the relationship is great there. But I think that there's an aspect to your business that a lot of people probably don't understand, because I think that most people who deal with CROs that are not sort of vertically integrated in the way you are probably take their scientifically proven product, drug, whatever it is, to a CRO who then basically conducts their clinical trial, right? And I think that's the version of CRO that people generally think of. But and again, and this, my limited knowledge is that there are others out there like you, but in ophthalmology, at least I'm familiar with what you do, is that you provide lots of other services to these organizations that are not typically found within a single company. And I think it's worthwhile spending a few minutes on that, because I'm not just talking about preclinical and clinical work and clinical trial design and planning, but it's also the regulatory process. And I think more importantly, and I think what a lot of people who will listen to this podcast will find interesting, is that you also are very integral in the financing aspect of what these companies do. And I think you should explain to people sort of how you do that and what services you provide with that in mind.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think there's a phrase I love to pull from the movie The Right Stuff. I'm a pilot, and I love that movie. But there's a time when they're trying to raise money to go to the moon, and they trying to get the astronauts out there to raise some money, and made the clear point, say no bucks, no Buck Rogers. So none of this stuff happens. You're not going to the moon, without the money, and that's a very important thing in drug development. That if you can't put together a cohesive plan, understand the steps, the risk factors, the timeline, the size of the market that you're addressing, the regulatory path, design the study so that you understand, how long it's going to take and how much it's going to cost, and being able to lay that out in a way together with the credibility of execution, then you're not going to do a great job raising the money from investors to get behind that program. And so, first part of this is understanding, having gone through it so many times, what are the steps, and then being able to put that in a way using the knowledge of other programs, our own experience, and also the current state of things. For example, like enrollment timelines right now in the COVID environment. You have to plan for that and raise enough money so you understand how that dynamic could affect the enrollment in the study. There are also unique ways to shorten timelines and improve likelihood of success. Our OraNet, which is a global network of investigative sites, it spans China and Europe and in all of the US and all the ophthalmology subspecialties. This is such a powerful and truly unique thing that I think goes underestimated. So when a lot of times you start a study, you have to go and find the sites and figure out what ones you're going to use. We have already signed up these sites. We already know the investigators. We know who does high quality work and how many they enroll. They also have an ongoing relationship with Ora over many years, so they're really showing up for the for those particular programs that we bring to them. And in many cases, these are exclusive sites to us, which means that the clients that work with Ora get access to almost a private network of investigative sites that allow them to have their studies prioritized for enrollment. So all of that stuff moves towards reducing timelines and costs. So when you bake all of this stuff in, now it comes time to go out and raise some money. We have a wonderful network of sources of capital. Everything from high net worth individuals, family offices, venture capital groups of various different sizes, sometimes private equity, as well as special sources of funds, government agencies, granting organizations, as well as even larger pharmaceutical companies that might be interested in creative co-development project financing programs. But understanding how different types of capital come in over the different phases of development and how you can pull in those different sources of capital in almost like creating a recipe so that you can really properly fund a program through its various phases of development. Understanding how to support the inventors and often the scientists who have never raised money before. You have an idea, an ophthalmologist, you come to us sooner or later. You maybe never had experience in drug development, so we're teaching that. But then it comes time to raise money. Well, they've never raised money. How do you put together a syndicate? How do you're working with the lawyers to put this together? It's almost like an incubator type function, but it's necessary, right? So that's something that we do. And as you mentioned, we've brought a number of opportunities to in-focus capital, and the ability for us to have trusted partnerships within the finance community also accelerates the diligence period. And I think that's another real big differentiator, that the breadth of the team at Ora, whether it's regulatory or CMC, the chemistry and manufacturing of the product, whether it's the clinical timelines or the FDA approval process, all of this experience, safety, potential adverse events, all of that experience comes to help put together a diligence package that is very comprehensive. And it's one of these things. I think the comment was we would have had to hire 7 consultants in order to put together the diligence package that Ora put together. And that's because we have all that internal expertise. I mean, the people are fully employed, at Ora, in here, in service to the investors and the entrepreneurs. But yes, it's a great point. Being able to actually get the trials and the programs funded is a really important part of moving those programs forward.
Yeah. So if you think, the experience that we've had, with entrepreneurs and companies that have worked with you has always been, Ora does everything, right? That you guys basically will take, and don't get me wrong, there are CEOs of different skill levels at every stage of development of a novel company, and some of them have a skill set, like you said, they can identify the product and figure out how to do the science and get enough data to make sure that they want to move forward, but they have no idea how to raise money. They have no idea what the FDA requires. It really, and what we've heard, at least internally, is the feedback is that they can go to you and you basically help them navigate this entire process. And that the ability to do all of that and say, we'll help you with this, we'll help you plan the trial. There's the regulatory stuff. You set up meetings, you're at the FDA every week, I would imagine. And, dealing with all, it's sort of a comfort, for people who have no idea. There's this frightened look when we meet with some of these early companies, like, I don't know where to go or what to do, because there are so many things that are required, and having access to a single location in which to do that, I think is unique. And I think it's that mentality that has led us to work with you in a lot of opportunities, because that's what we do from the investment side, right? We put everything together in one group so that we can understand all of this from the investment side. You've done everything on the clinical side, and it's I think differentiated in the space.
Well, thanks for that. I think that our orientation is very simple, right? We are here in service to the innovators. And what we do is something my dad calls research on research. And that is a simple way of saying that we innovate research. We develop new research methods, models, and processes so that we can show up in the most efficient way. So when you're coming to select an endpoint, which endpoint is it? Maybe you could develop, maybe there's a model, maybe there's a new maybe there's a new scale that needs to be developed. Maybe there's a new statistical technique, right? Those are things that we'll develop so that you don't have to guess about how do you study a product, right? The idea of the product itself is a very important part of the equation, but then how you study it, how you design those studies, how you execute those studies, that is very, very important as well. And in many cases can be the difference between getting the product approved or not. I think the concept of service is something that's become very important to us, right? We are we put that the entrepreneur and the inventors, whether it's a single physician or whether it's an R&D team at a company, and we put them at the center. We say, how do we make their life easier? What information do they need? How can we de-risk the program? How can we set that program up for success or shorten its timeline? So that's really the service mentality that we bring. And our values, right? I've actually been really digging in deep now on what are Ora's values as we're looking here, right? I mean, we're in the middle of a COVID world where people are isolated. I mean, we've grown a lot. About half of the company at Ora, we have never met each other because the company's grown a lot in this past year. We've had so many people come to us when trials stopped and said, how can you keep this going? I mean, we've been like the go-to rescue shop for trials of people who couldn't get it done elsewhere. And it's been an amazing, you talk about these businesses that do really well in COVID and those that don't, right? Ora has experienced unprecedented growth during this time because people are seeking the relationships that we have with the sites and our can-do attitude and creativity to be able to get things done in this crazy environment. But as a leader of this, it's challenging because these people are Zooming from home with their kids. Right. They've got kids at home school and spouses that are Zooming in the other room. And so we've been going to work really hard on trying to calm things down. Listen, get focused, work on yourself, right? Don't send emails at all crazy hours of the night. Get your sleep. We've been working on your diet and exercise programs, mindfulness programs, because at the end of the day, our job is to field a team that has the knowledge, but they also have to show up as compassionate, forward-thinking, problem-solving individuals, humans, and they also have to work well with their teammates. So if you look at the magic of a team, like a sports team, it's not about the superstar athlete that's the know-it-all or does all the big plays. It's about how those teams work together. So there's a magic to Ora that's emergent from our focus on the individual, the sort of human centric of it. And I feel like we take care of our people and our people are going to take care of our customers and their programs.
I know you have some new people who've joined during COVID and some really sort of key hires for you that I think are really great. Who are those people and what will their roles be?
Yeah, so we've created a new position called Chief Development Officer. There was a press release that went out a couple days ago, so I can talk about Dr. David Bingaman. David is a veterinary ophthalmologist with a PhD in angiogenesis. He was at Alcon before he went to go work with Paul Cheney and Marty Wax at Panoptica, where he ran global retina programs for their product for a number of years. It was interesting. We didn't do a lot of work over that period of time with Panoptica because David was doing such a great job. And then he went on to another European firm, Oculus, and David joined us about 4 weeks ago. and is overseeing all of our therapeutic areas. So we're organized by therapeutic subspecialties. So dry eye, allergy, anti-infective, retina, glaucoma, devices, and then our preclinical activity, which actually reports up into a gentleman by the name of Hal Patterson. Hal's an incredible resource and has saved many, many programs from the CMC perspective, but regulatory and CMC and preclinical, the early stage, reports up into Hal, who's then up into David Bingaman. So we're really excited to have David come. He brings just a wealth of knowledge. He also brings just the character and leadership that you want in a senior executive at the company. And so he's going to be helping to take a lot of the resources at Ora and continuing to project those onto a global stage, working with our European operations, as well as China. One brief comment, we have a very unique structure, which I learned at Amphenol when I was in the electronics industry, about vertical integration within these regions. So when you look at Europe for us, for example, we have a fully vertically integrated organization there. The leadership, business development, quality, project management, site development, clinical operations, safety, regulatory, all of that is contained within Europe, reporting up into Europe, not part of these matrix global organizations where often there's poor accountability. We're doing the same thing in China. And what that means is that you've got the best of local, but then a collaborative senior leadership team that knits that together for delivering global studies. And that's something that is becoming more and more of an opportunity for us. We're fortunate that some of the largest, and most innovative companies in the space are coming to us for our ideas, product ideas, as well as clinical execution. So this is a tried and true operating model in another industry, but I think is something that I think lends itself very naturally to doing a great job in this detail-oriented business. But it all comes down to selecting the right people. At the end of the day, it's really about the talent. We have this vision statement now at Ora, which says creating vision beyond what we see. Right? This is creating vision beyond what we see. That means that we have got to look beyond what we're doing right now and even what's on the immediate horizon to something that's much bigger. That potentially even goes beyond just the work that we're doing in ophthalmology because we use our business as a force for good. I just hired an employee who is in Zambia. She had no job, was selling trinkets on the street to feed her 5 kids. And I met her on a trip when I was over there on a safari. And I now have her trained with a laptop and supporting the back office for our UK operation. We transformed that woman's life, right? So when we say vision beyond what we see, we do things that are good for business. We do things that are good for ophthalmology, for our customers, for ourselves. But like when you make these kind of choices, you can do a lot of good in the world. And that's something that is really, really important to us as a family business.
Thanks again, Stuart Abelson, President, Chairman, and CEO of Ora. And thank you to the OIS community. Looking forward to future podcasts with you.
Thank you for listening to Stuart Abelson's lively discussion of Ora's role in the process of helping innovative companies complete their clinical studies. Register now for the upcoming OIS Digital Innovation Showcase on May 20th. And come back next week for another informative discussion here on the OIS Podcast.